In this exercise, we're going to take a look at how to straighten and crop an image and also make some basic color corrections in Photoshop CS4. Let's begin by selecting the crop tool. When I mouse over it, you'll see that it reveals the keyboard shortcut, which is the letter C. Other tools also have keyboard shortcuts. For example, lasso is L. Just mouse over the tool and you'll see what the keyboard shortcut is. If you use them a lot, it's a very useful thing to use the keyboard shortcuts. So back to the crop tool, I'm going to put in some dimensions here. I'm going to put in 3.5 inches, and tab over, and 2.5 for the height, and then hit return. So now my crop will be 3.5 by 2.5. You can see the crop tool icon, which looks like two double rulers, double L-shaped rulers with a line through it. When I click and drag, it creates what's called a marquee, which these marching ants around the object indicate that. When I let go of the mouse, you'll see that the marching ants turn into these lines with little boxes around them. And if I go to the corner of the box, it's either a bent arrow or it's double straight arrows. The bent arrow indicates that I can make some rotational changes. So I'm going to first click and rotate to try and match up that angle that the picture is at in this image. Then I switch to the double straight arrows and I can move in the corners of my crop. Okay? Make sure perspective is not checked or else you won't get straight edges. They'll be at an angle. So I'm going to adjust that. You notice I'm clicking in the middle and moving it. You can see a black arrow that indicates I can move it from the center out. And I'm just going to fine-tune that crop, try and get as much of this image as I can. Okay, maybe a little rotation here to fix that. All right, and bring it out just a hair. If I need to move it in small increments, I can use the arrow keys, left or right, up or down, as you can see here. That's looking pretty good. So now I'm going to hit the return key. But first notice the opacity of the shield, which is this background color, is set at 50%. That's so I can see through and see what I've got everything in the image here. If you don't want to see the background, you could bring that up to 100% and it would show you just black. But I like it at 50% just so I can see that I've got everything. Okay, so back to this. Now I'm going to hit return or enter and it will crop the image. There we go. It's cropped and it's also rotated it properly. Now I'm going to make some corrections to this image. This is kind of magenta overall, and I'm going to see if the automatic adjustments can fix that. So let's go Image, Auto Color. And that actually did a pretty good job. It corrected the magenta cast, but the image is still a little bit weak looking. It looks a little flat, the blacks aren't very black, and the highlights are a little washed out. So I'm going to go Image, Adjustments, Shadows, Highlights. And this little dialog box comes up. And if you notice, when I move the slider to the right on the shadows get lighter. If I move it down, much richer. So I'm going to move them down to 0 on that. The highlights works in the opposite way. The highlights will get richer as I move the slider up. So let's make it look as good as we can right there. That looks pretty good. I'm going to say OK. And now we've done a simple correction on the image. Simple crop and correction in the image very quickly in Photoshop.